atmosphere in the arena that night. And it was like, who's going to be the one to dethrone Roman? And I think as that match went on, you could see it on Twitter, and I could certainly feel it in the stadium. People going, why not now? Right? Like this feels that magic of what I'm saying that you can't always get in wrestling, right? Like we'd all love to bottle up. It was there that night, right? Like, and
Yeah.
is it kind of like that bittersweet when you go backstage and you go, you know what, I've done a great job. It's a classic match, but man, it was right there.
Yeah, for sure. It's very rare if ever you get moments like that. I mean, it's more than likely if ever you get moments like that where there's a
Mm.
stadium full of people 100%, on one guy's side, 100% against the other guy. The story has just peaked at the perfect time, and you have a chance to really take a talent to that next level. And that's what we had at Clash. And yeah, again, they're talking about the bigger picture earlier. You do have to look at the bigger picture. What's the plans, for Roman and the Bloodline storyline? But at the same time, it's like, is there a way to do both? And in my mind, I
Mm.
was like, theory is that Money in the Bank case. There might be a way to pull this off to, look after, Roman and the Bloodline story, which is the bigger picture, but at the same time, make a talent and take them to the next level. But everything happens for a reason. Sometimes old McIntyre doesn't quite get it done. It's the story of my life and my character's life, I guess, that I keep getting knocked down and knocked down. And I guess that's why my fans keep rallying behind me and pushing for me and believing in me because they see, how hard I work and how much I believe, no matter how close I get and keep getting it taken away from me. And I'll continue to push forward until we finally get that moment.
Uh, just going back to as well, we've talked about what you've done the past couple of years, but it's almost it feels so long ago now that we were in that pandemic era almost, right? Because you go so hard.
But
And obviously you were the guy propping it all up and you had the hardest task at the time. I thought you did a magnificent job. I've never been shy saying that. When you look back on that title reign now, is there anything that, sticks out to you or, that you're particularly proud of? Because, I often think about, I think it was Stephanie McMahon who tells the story that Eddie Guerrero went to Vince after his reign. He was like, you know what, I'm ready to be your champion again. And I bet you're chomping at the bit to say the same thing.
oh, I know I'm ready and I've been ready. But again, there's this giant storyline going on right now that dictates all the titles being involved with it. And there's so many bit players, and it's hard to say, like, well, just give it to me because I'm ready. When you're watching it going, man, it is pretty intriguing, and there are so many layers to it, and it is something very unique that I do not remember the last time that such time was taken to tell such a slow burn story. Generally we're kind of rushing to the finish line because we have these Premier Live events every single month. We're trying to get matches built up as quick as possible. But the ones involved in that story have just put their foot down and said, we're slowly building this and it's worked. The proof is in the pudding, and maybe we'll see more
It
of
is.
that across the board. So, eventually, it's going to reach a climax. I'm sure it'll be awesome. And, I've got my eyes on certain people that could potentially pull off the big one. Obviously, Cody's got the big match. I want him to do well. It'd be cool to see him pull off the big one. But at the same time, I look at guys like Sammy and I look at Jey Uso and like, man, there's a lot of potential options where this could go. There's still steam left in it. And the second that it slows down and those titles change hands, old Drew McIntyre is going to pop his head back up and say, "Hey, remember me?" Because
Remember me.
unfortunately, I lost recently, so I can't go diving in anytime soon, or I'll be crapping on myself. Going, God, did you just have a match?
I've got a couple of shorter questions to get to here. I spoke to the Undertaker this week, which by the way was just an incredible joy. And he said the two people that have bugged him most to come out of retirement, or that he would know, was actually you and Sheamus. Does that
Oh yeah.
surprise you? Does that surprise you at all? Sheamus
I
knocking
mean,
down the door as well.
yeah, of course, anything I do, Seamus wants to do. And then he says
There
it's
you
the other
go.
way around. It's like, oh, whenever I do something he wants to do, I was like, nah, mate, it's the other way around. You get jealous when you want to do everything that I want to do, or I don't do and suggest. Then he goes, well, I want it anyway. I was like, right, Thanos, calm it, mate. You can't have all the Infinity Stones. The rest of us want some as well. But it's awesome that Taker said that because, yeah, I mean, I have, harassed him for many, many, many years, especially when I was younger. And he was put in charge of me as my mentor. I'd drive him crazy with questions. And as the years passed and, went away from the company, came back, grew up a lot. We became, peers talking on the same level and friends now. It's cool. I can send him a text or we see each other at events, specifically WWE community events like Special Olympics and the like. And we get the chance to hang out with the wives and stuff and talk. And You know, if I get the opportunity, which is whatever I can find it, badger and go, how's that body feeling? So
One
come on,
more.
mate. Come on, mate.
Yeah.
You can do it.
He-
We'll do one of those mental cinematic matches if you want, but I know we can do it if you wanted to.
Yeah. That's the thing and all. Like we were laughing about the GIF because everyone went crazy over it, right? The Drew McIntyre pops up behind
Oh
Undertaker.
yeah.
We thought that was the time. We thought maybe that was the time.
I mean, that was awesome. Even that day, I remember like it was Taker who approved that moment right there. I think doors were pretty much coming, and I just had I don't know what sparked it. I just had that idea. I think I might have just saw Rambo. Um, like well, good, maybe not the most recent one, but the two Rambles ago, where he rose up behind the machine gun, and that
Mm.
specific image was so cool. And I remember just thinking the idea of like rising up behind the horror movie character, as he does, you know, his trademark signature finishing maneuver, would be a really cool moment. But then before you actually get to take him out, the good guy saves the day with Roman with the spear, and I just had that image in my head, and you know, said it, and Taker basically stopped everything. I went, "We're not opening any doors until we look at this." And sure enough, had a look at it, got it right. It came out awesome. I'm glad he went for it.
Speaking of ideas and getting them right, obviously you were the first guy to kick out of the end of day.
Yes, I
I'm.
love to talk about this.
Do
Can we
you?
clip this and then tag Baron Corbin? Remember that time I kicked out of the end of days last year, WrestleMania, the grandest stage of them all, the end of days, the movie that never been kicked out of. I kicked out of it.
I actually love that finish too. It's a great finish.
It is a great finish to kick out
What
of,
was
but also it's a great finish.
when was that decided? Was that always kind of something that you thought, you know, and this will be a cool moment when we get there, or like was it like a really big thing on the day of where it's like, shall we do it? Shall we not? Because it had been protected incredibly well. Like I can't think of any others in recent memory that have gone the distance like that that no one's kicked out of. There's a handful that are really well protected, but that one went years. Can you remember the process?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably only a few days leading up to it, and the day itself, discussing what a big moment it would be. And realistically, you know, every finish has been kicked out of eventually. Not till it's built up enough and established enough where it's genuinely shocking. Like the first time the tombstone was kicked out of, you know, the stunner was kicked out of, everything has been kicked out of, the claymore a couple of times as well, but they're all established enough that when it happens, it's such a shocking moment. And you know, the end of days has been literally years that it hadn't been kicked out of ever. And it was just, you know, when is the right time? Realistically, you're going to retire and then sit there in your rocking chair like, nobody kicked out my finish. That's my legacy. Or are you going to have that moment where it did happen and you have that appropriate reaction? And like it was, you know, very cool of Corbin to be cool with, or not cool, but you know, understanding of me kicking out of it at WrestleMania as the babyface that was on the rise, going on to wrestle, you know, Thanos and Roman Reigns after that
Mm.
had to be propped up as big as possible, and you know, everything was trying to go into that character to get him ready. And you know, the heel's job is to get that babyface ready, and there's no better heel really in the company than Corbin. He's just a true heel through and through, and very giving in the matches for such a big guy. You'll see him sell for anybody of any size. He's such a great athlete, and that finish was so big. It was such a big moment for Drew. And as much as I give him hell and like to talk about how I kicked out of all the times I kicked out of it, and the first person ever to kick out of it, I am very grateful to him because that was a huge moment in my career, a huge moment in that match. The way people reacted in the stadium, the way
Yeah.
Corbin reacted as well, you know, made it very special and really showed McIntyre as, oh my goodness, this guy's a monster. Maybe he can be the one to go on and beat Roman.
That's it. The final one from me, mate. Obviously, Triple H brought you back to WWE with NXT. You were the chosen one with Vince McMahon once upon a time. You were the WWE champion under Vince. Now Triple H is back. So it's kind of, you know, in charge, kind of. So it's kind of safe to say you've got a great history with both men. So I'm just curious about your working under them, if it's any different, like those kind of relationships, or has it kind of been business as usual for you? Because by this time you are like established main event player. Has there been any differences? Talk me through that process.
For me personally, not that different. Like you mentioned, I've got a good relationship with both of them. So every single week, I would make sure I got some FaceTime just to make sure we're on the same page and what we're trying to achieve with the storyline that week or with the character that week. Because sometimes it can, come from the top and then go to the next person and the next person and Chinese whispers. And by the time you do it on screen, it's not quite, what they envisioned, or maybe it's not quite what it could be if you work as a collaboration and go straight to the top. And, that's been my mentality for a couple of years. So it's exactly the same now as it was, with Vince. I'll go straight to Hunter to see what he thinks, get his opinion, collaborate, brainstorm, and then try and put on the best performance that night.
What if that camera goes on early and it blows the whole angle? Hey, why don't we just duck down and then the camera goes on early? Nobody will see. And so we duck down by the dashboard and I look over at him and he says, "Can you believe they're putting us together?" And I'm like, "We're both gonna be fired in the next 4 weeks, don't you get it?" And he goes, "But the we're gonna stir in 4 weeks. They don't